Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video we'll be adding a little swing to the front forks. For the new folks, a quick recap on this project. I'm modifying this junkyard bike so that I can change the head tube angle and fork rake for testing purposes. I've completed the head tube angle section in the last video, and now we're moving on to the fork section. Sketching up some ideas, and this hinge here, the arm with the jacking screw, it's gonna need to be redone. The design here is not quite right, and the reason is there's two pivot points, and those points are too close together for this arm to work properly, so it'd be almost like pushing against itself. So I'll need to fix that later. But it's good to do sketches like that because you kind of get your ideas out, and your bad ideas in this case. Okay, so I've got this all tacked up now, and I'm gonna get some welds in here on the sides and in here, and then I'm gonna chop this off and then finish the rest of the welding. Alright guys, here's how those welds turned out. And so I decided to try and get in here. Let's see. So I'm going to try to get in here before I cut this off. The reason is I think this will help shield the gas. I won't be able to get too far in there because it'll be really hard to see. But if I just get like 1/4 of an inch here, I'll be happy with that. Okay, so I ended up bringing it all the way around. So I came all the way around here and then to the other side. You can see I did the same here. I just went all the way around. So I think now we're ready to cut it off. So I almost completely severed this, and I forgot that I want to measure the rake before I cut this off. We're at 58.37, and I think typically between 40 and 60 is your typical rake. I went with manual, no pulse on the sides, and then I pulsed these sections down here. This pass here is a different color because sometimes you got to do a second pass with no filler. That's what this is. I didn't get a good enough bond, so I ran it a second time. So you can see these are a lot hotter. When you go manual, it gets a lot hotter. And I'm out of practice, so pretty hot. Same here. You can see I cooked through the tube top here. A little bit here. I just couldn't avoid it. I tried my best not to do that, but it happens. So to connect this, I'm gonna weld a plate onto here. So the plate's connected to the fork, and then I'm gonna have a bolt tapped through here, and it'll hinge right here. So the fork will kind of do this sort of thing. So last night I was looking at my drawing and realized that with this setup, the jacking screw actually won't work as well as I thought it would. So I'll need to do a few more sketches and change the position of the screw. Need to make a new apron for the mill, and the front apron was this kind of accordion sort of rubber thing, and it started cracking in multiple places, and it tore. I think partly through the move as well. It got ruined. The move was quite the fiasco out here. I used this really bad shipping mover company. It was like one of those fake moving companies, and they're actually a third party, and they're a broker, so they don't actually move your stuff, even though the guy on the phone said they do. And it was very stressful. And when they finally arrived at my place, it was the craziest. It was literally one of those heavy-duty pickup trucks, and he was pulling a trailer, a long cargo trailer, with all of our stuff on it, including the mill and the lathe. Just, it was way overweight for what I think it was intended to haul. And these guys were contractors as well. Anyway, I believe they're emerald van lines. So if you're ever moving, don't use them. They don't actually move your stuff. They're a broker. They ship your stuff with the cheapest bidder. Even though on the phone they'll tell you all kinds of lies about what they do. The guy literally said white glove service for moving. And when the guy showed up to move our stuff, it was of course a different company. When he showed up to pick up our stuff, they of course doubled the price because he counted all the boxes and said the square footage was more, and so they doubled the price. But they did that after our stuff was already all packed up on the truck. I won't get into all the predatory details of how they do it, but they basically put you in a corner where you're stuck, and you can't just call it quits and say you'll use someone else, because then they say they're going to charge you if they're going to take all the stuff off the truck, because they have already done all that work. It was very stressful, that's all I can say. And it was the first time we moved this far, and they knew it. Like, the way these companies work is they know you're in a bind. And unfortunately, I did try to use a better mover first, but we were on a schedule, and I had to have a mover sooner. And so I went with these guys, not really thinking, due to time constraints, and boy did I regret it later. I was gonna throw a plate on here, so this plate was going to be welded onto this part, and then I'd have a hole drilled right here, and I was going to weld this bolt into here. So if I do that, it will be permanent, and that didn't seem like a good idea. So what I think I'll do instead is something like this. So I'll weld a nut in here, and then I'll make this bolt, make it so that the bolt can come off by unscrewing it, and that way I'll be able to assemble and disassemble this fork just in case. I got this nut welded in here, but I almost had another fusing problem. I almost couldn't get the bolt out. So the reason this was happening is this nut was getting really hot to weld in here. It got so hot that even without filler, it fused to the bolt a little. I was able to get the bolt pulled out. For some reason, the walls of this tube don't want to melt as easily as the nut. That doesn't make any sense to me, because you'd think this is a lot thinner. But maybe this is acting like a heat sink and it's spreading the heat throughout. I don't know. So on this side, I'm gonna tack this in here on both sides, maybe just one side, and then pull the bolt out and be very careful not to get this too hot. And if the bolt shifts a little and I need to re-tap this, that's okay. I don't mind doing that. Here's where I ended up. So I'm definitely going to need to tap this. And in Fusion 360, I'm gonna 3D print these fixtures. I believe that's 80. The extrusion it'll be bolted to is 80/20 series, and the extrusion, the dimensions are 40 millimeters by, I believe, 20. When I ended up printing this, I used something like 50% in filler. I wouldn't recommend that in the long term. It's fine if you're just doing something like the project I'm working on now, but if you're making fixtures with 3D printed parts, I would recommend like 90 to 100% infill, just so it has the rigidity that it needs. But I didn't do that because I was kind of on a schedule here and I had to get these things done sooner. And also, they're just kind of prototype sort of parts. So I may kind of steal ideas from this design for when I make a more long-term fork fixture at some point. So there's a T-nut that needs to slide in here like this, and I made this, it's too long, so I need to cut it down. I'll cut it down on the mill a little. This T-nut needs to be able to screw up and put pressure on these little tabs here. So I've got digital readouts for both the lathe and the mill. I'm using a touch DRO system, so it uses like an Android tablet as the readout. And for whatever reason, the tablet died the next day. I had it all set up. I literally spent like a whole day getting both readouts configured, and the next day one of them, just the battery died completely. And it was really annoying because it was a Chromebook. It was my kid's old Chromebook that they didn't need, and so I had this thing in the shop just doing one job, and that was to run the Touch DRO software. And so the battery died and the thing reset, and when I turned it back on, it wouldn't turn on again unless I logged into Google. And once I did that, it updated the OS, and then it wouldn't run Touch DRO anymore. I could not get it to run Touch DRO anymore on a Chromebook. Apparently it doesn't do it, at least the update. So I had to run out that evening and buy a cheapo Android tablet, because I need my digital scales. And here's a side view so you guys can see what kind of negative rake and positive rake we're gonna get out of this. So I believe that's plenty enough negative rake, and of course it's already got a positive rake, so it goes even more extreme now. I don't know if I'll even ever test it to those limits, because it probably would be unrideable, but the option's there if I need it. Okay guys, that is a wrap. In the next video, we'll get the jacking screw assembly attached to this fork somehow, and once that's on there, we'll be able to adjust the fork rake by tightening or loosening the screw. Hopefully. Until then, stay humble, and I'll see you guys in the next one.